Bring in the video next time? Sure, I'll bring it down. Okay. It's 18 minutes where people are riveted to the screen. Okay. Nobody gets up and uses the bathroom during that video. Okay. I'm not going to show the video today. No, I'm sorry. Okay. You can what a jip. He's not showing the video. Okay. You can see a clip of the video on the Kessler website. It's a cleaned up clip. Okay. Be careful how I say that. Okay. It's cleaned up, but you can get an idea of what it's about. And very honestly, it's not a hygiene film. It's not something you'd see in 6th grade health class. Okay. But it's also not something that would get a XXX rating. It's a very, very fact-based film on sex after the onset of disability. Kessler, and I will post that to the Facebook website. Post that to the listserv also. I'm going to be doing a lot of posting, I see. Other questions?
Joe, you can pull that up on my computer if you want. I've got internet.
I can try. I don't know what's there. You know what? Let me see if I can find it, and then I'll give it to you. I don't want to waste time looking for it.
I agree.
Because they bury it on the site sometimes. Other questions? Anybody want to talk about sex for people using a personal care assistant?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay. And I have to be... I'm sorry? Not sex with your personal care assistant. Sex for people who use a personal care assistant. Sex with your personal care assistant is bad. It never comes out well. Okay? Keep the business and the personal. Okay? It's funny, we were talking about this over lunch. This is what we talk about over lunch. But one of the things I always say to people is when they hire a personal assistant, they should be very comfortable speaking about what they're going to need and finding the limits of what their personal assistant is willing to do. People get very, 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 very protective of their sex lives, and personal care assistants have their own spin on sex and their own spin on how it comes into their work relationship. So very often those questions need to be asked. Questions like, would you mind if I asked you to put me to bed naked because I was expecting a partner to show up after you leave? Or would you mind putting that video in the VCR and pushing play before you leave? Or issues like that, only because it saves a lot of very, very awkward moments if you've hired somebody and they work for you already and you're trying to say, hey, look, here's something we didn't talk about. Are you okay doing this? Okay? The answer may be yes, the answer may be no, but in theory, it's no different than someone who's saying, I don't drink, that's not what I choose to do, but I need you to make me a 7 and 7. Okay? That kind of thing. Just because your personal care assistant may not be into it or may not think it's appropriate doesn't mean it shouldn't happen. I think it should be talked about so that everybody's really comfortable about it. And there are assistants who will say, I don't want to know what's in your bottom drawer in your dresser. Okay? It can stay there, it's fine, that's great, but don't ask me to go in there. And I think you either need to make a choice not to hire that person or understand that that person is not going to engage in that kind of activity with you. And if people are right up front about what their limits are, you should not push those limits. It probably won't just work itself out after the fact. It's not like, well, I like my eggs scrambled and you like to make them over easy, so can we talk about this? That's a pretty hard limit to push. Other questions? Question back here. On wheels again. Love the carpet.
I'm kind of embarrassed to ask this question.
Go ahead.
I'd like to know the appropriate way on how to give a blowjob.
Watch me answer this one. Okay? It depends. Okay? A blowjob is a colloquial term for oral stimulation of male genitalia. Okay? It depends on the person that you're giving the act to. Okay? It can be. It can be. It may not be. Generally, we hope the penis is bigger than a straw. Okay. Okay. However, it depends on what your partner likes. That's part of talking about what's going on. Some people, it's a lot of stimulation. Some people, it's very, very little. No.
Hey,
Okay. Biting is generally bad.
Hey, Joe, if you're dating a female with cerebral palsy, if you're dating a person with cerebral palsy, you got to make sure the phone's off the hook, the doorbell is disconnected.
Yeah, the startle reflex can be bad.
Ouch.
Okay, the startle reflex is generally not your friend. Okay, I once worked with a couple who the guy had CP and they were in the throes of an intimate moment such that her head was in his lap and he was laying flat on his back and the phone rang or the doorbell went off and his knees came up and hit her right behind the temple. And needless to say, it was a very, very awkward moment, and somebody almost went to the emergency room. So the startle reflex is generally not your friend during certain delicate areas of sexual contact.
Are there other ways to have sex besides doing intercourse? Like if you choose to have a relationship and get perfectly honest, I'm Catholic. So I was off a boyfriend. I just don't know if I want to have sex during marriage. But there are other ways that I can act sexy. I'm sorry.
Four? Why are you apologizing? We don't apologize at the CP conference unless you poke somebody in the eye. Okay. The question was, because of your religious beliefs, you're Catholic, and you're choosing to wait till marriage for sexual intercourse, and are there ways that you can be sexual? Yes, there are lots of ways. Every way that I mentioned on my slide, plus lots of other ways. Again, it's one of those things where you have to decide what your limits are with the person that you're with. And everybody has their own limits, and some people, unfortunately, some people don't accept other people's limits. And that means the end of the relationship fundamentally, because nobody should go forward feeling bad. But there are some folks that, because of religion or whatever the situation may be, or even because of their physical ability, may never have conventional penis into vagina sexual intercourse. And that's fine. That's okay. Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Whatever two consenting adults find acceptable is acceptable in their world. Other questions? And we got one here. Get the mic back there, please.
Let's say somebody does not enjoy their sexuality because they do not want to be obvious to staff and family. Let's say somebody does not enjoy their sexuality because they do not want to be obvious to staff and family.
Okay, I think I know where you're going. The question, I think, in expanding a little bit, is how do you have sex if you don't want to talk to your staff and talk to your family? The other option is to engage in a service, in a surrogacy service. There are agencies and individuals that provide sexual physical assistance, and that's all they do. That's the end of their relationship. As I say when I do my couples workshop, it's like going to the dentist. You go in, you get your teeth cleaned, you get whatever you're going to get done, and it's over. One of the contacts is IPSA, the International Association of Professional Surrogates, the International Professional Surrogacy Agency. They're out of San Francisco. They're on the West Coast, but you can get a surrogacy directory for your local area, and it's a pay service, and that person can come and help you if you want to be sexual with another individual, help you work through that. Okay. Other questions?
Blowjob question, actually. And a question, well, no. To reverse it, what if you're a man wanting to give oral to a woman? Any advice?
Any advice?
Yes, on positioning, on such things, and...
Okay. Well, you have to be in the same room.
Yes.
Okay? Okay. Again, it depends on the functional ability of both people. Your mouth needs to be in proximity to her parts. Okay? There are folks who use pieces of furniture, use a different type of model instead of in a bed, because a bed just doesn't work. I've seen people in tilt wheelchairs put their wheelchairs all the way back, and the person with the most functional ability will straddle. Okay? It depends on the two people who are interested. I had a human sexuality professor who went through this whole thing about dental dams. And everybody know what a dental dam is? Does anybody not know what a dental dam is? Okay. A dental dam is basically a sheet of latex, kind of like a condom that is not closed in a tube, that they use during dental surgery to prevent pus and infected tissue from spreading throughout the mouth. They pop the tooth that they're working on through it, and it's a latex barrier to prevent blood and stuff from going all over your mouth. It is something that the CDC recommends for oral sex, male to female, because you put the latex sheath against the vaginal opening, and you could perform oral sex through it. I had a human sexuality professor who said to me, now, never let it be said that I taught you guys about anything in class that I haven't tried. So I went to my dentist office and said, could you give me a handful of dental dams? And then I went home to my husband and said, we're going to try something later. And I literally asked him how he felt about doing it. And his biggest complaint was having to hold it while he was doing it. And he said if they could make these things with leg straps, it would be wonderful, because you could just put it on and go to town.